This is the Raleigh Tekoa. It's a brand new electric bike for 2015, and gosh, there's a lot to say about it. It uses a really well-balanced drive system, and it comes with some excellent components, so I might just jump in there. This is a 10-speed sort of trail mountain bike that's got a nice front suspension, got rock shocks, it's an air fork, it's got lockout adjust here, which is pretty cool, and 100 millimeters of travel. It's XC30 right there, so very solid. It feels nice, you know, you're riding around, hitting some bumps and stuff, but what also contributes to that smooth ride is these extra large 29-inch wheels. So when you've got a larger wheel diameter, you increase your attack angle, which means that you can overcome bumps and ruts and things much more easily, and you get a nice rolling momentum. So as you go, the bike maintains some energy going forward. And these are, I don't know, maybe in the last 5 years or so have kind of caught on and become popular for off-road riding, and so it's neat to see them here. They are, you know, traditional wheels are maybe like 26-inch, and then there's also 27.5-inch wheels. So this is at the upper end of that. One of the cool things about the way that these wheels are set up is that you'll notice there's quick release on the front and the rear wheel, so you can actually service this bike just like a regular bicycle. Unlike some electric bikes where the motor is in the rear, you know, there's extra cables and extra heavy-duty nuts and stuff going on. That's not the case. You've just got your cassette over here. It's the 10-speed SRAM X7, and your disc brake, which you can see right here. That's 180 millimeter front and rear. You've got this Tektro Aruga hydraulic, so when you're riding, you know, just with one or two fingers you can easily actuate those brakes, and that's awesome when you're on the trail, because you might need to hold on firmly to the grips themselves when you're doing that. And they actually have a built-in motor cutoff, which is really cool. So this bike has pedal assist and throttle mode, and when you're in pedal assist mode, sometimes it's, you know, the bike is responding to your pedaling and the speed of the bike and stuff, and you might want to stop, and if you hit the brakes but the motor keeps going, that's no good. So these motors, they basically cut power to the motor. The brakes cut power to the motor as soon as you activate them, which is just awesome. That's what you'd want to see. I like the grips here. They've got lockers on them at the end, so they aren't going to twist, you know, if you're really bearing down. Of course, on this side you do have a twist throttle, which can easily twist. So that's one of the complaints about this bike. It's sort of a double-edged sword, right? On the one hand, you get the benefit of having a throttle, which you can use to get started, and you can use to help you up steep bits of the trail. But a downside is that, you know, part of your grip is sort of compromised because it can twist. So it's worth keeping in mind. There are other, you know, electric mountain bikes that don't have any throttle, and that's one of maybe the selling points of this bike. You know, it has both modes. And this bike also is capable of reaching higher top speeds, like up to 28 miles per hour, and the motor will keep going only in pedal assist mode. In throttle mode, it just goes to 20 miles per hour. So that's kind of standard regulation in the US. I might just jump into the actual motor specs. So this motor says Currie Electro Drive. It's designed by TransX. It's 350 watts, geared, so it's relatively small and light, but you get that extra torque because there are gears in there, increasing the power output of the motor. It pulls that chain, which you can see on the other side there. And actually, it's pretty cool the way they've set this up. There's just a single chain ring in the front, but you'll notice that it's got this guide, right? Like a wall on this side and a wall on that side, and it's actually aluminum alloy, so it doubles as a bash guard. If you come into contact with a rock or something down here, it's going to protect the teeth on that sprocket from incurring damage. So very cool. It's a good design, and you know, those two guides, they're going to keep the chain from bouncing off if you're, you know, going over some really rough terrain. Got these sort of, you know, basic plastic pedals, but they do have reflectors, which is nice. This bike could potentially be used for commuting around town, which should be neat. You know, you could use it on the trail if you want to, but then you could lock out that front fork, and now you've got kind of a commuter bike that's capable of going pretty fast and very efficient, because, you know, you're leveraging those rear sprockets. It's not just the motor doing all the work, it's actually complementing you riding. The downside that I've noticed is that I don't see braze-ons on the rear seat stays, and so it'd be a little bit harder to mount a rear rack. I kind of wish that they had added some of those. The good news is this bike, does have a standard seat post. You can always put a beam rack on the back. Topeak sells some. They might have not included those because this is a little bit of a longer frame. It comes in 3 sizes, 17, 19, and 21 inch. So there is, good potential to find the right fit for yourself. And I do see, it looks like you could potentially mount a fender on the rear, but it really isn't set up to be too much of a commuter, but I still think you could use it for that. Wear a backpack. There's also no bottle cage here on the seat tube. It'd probably be too small. Probably wouldn't be able to fit a bottle there, so they just didn't include it. You can also add bottle cages on the seat post or behind the seat, or use a Camelback. So those are some of the thoughts that were going through my mind looking at this thing. You'll notice that the wires and stuff are actually integrated through the frame, and the frame is really burly, extra thick, and it's solid, It's this nice red color. Got these Presta valves. The way the motor, getting back to the electronics, works is that it measures your cadence, it measures your bicycle speed, and it takes these different factors as you're pedaling, and it decides whether or not to kick in electric support, and that's the pedal assist. It's fairly advanced, but it's not quite as advanced as something like the Bosch system that measures like 1,000 times per second. I don't know how many times this one measures, but it's fewer, and it's just not quite as responsive. It still works really well, and the price on this bike's about $3,000, and so that's pretty good when you're talking about a mid-drive, high-quality bike that comes in 3 different sizes. You're doing pretty well. And the battery pack on this offers 48 volts, 8.7 amp hours of capacity, and that's solid. It's 48 volts is a higher power level, and that's going to help you climb, and it also allows for a more efficient electrical transfer when you're riding, which is cool. And it's removable. You can see the key in here right now. You can take this thing off. You can either charge it on or off the bike, and of course the battery is going to hold up better if you store it maybe inside in neutral temperatures. Extreme heat is bad for batteries, and it's always a good idea to top these off like after you've ridden so that it kind of stays charged. That's going to extend the life of the battery. And if you wanted to take this bike with you, like on a road trip or out to the trail, you can imagine hanging it on one of those bike racks on the back of your car. Well, because you can take the battery off, it's going to make that much easier to do, and it's going to lighten the overall weight of this bike. This bike's about 50 pounds total, so you take off the battery, and that's about 10 pounds, so it goes down to 40 pounds. Still not super light, given that you got a motor there, and that adds weight, but it's going to be lighter without that battery pack. So why don't I take that off real quick, and there we go. See it here? There's the battery pack. There's a charging port right there, that little rubber thing. And that's what it looks like mounted to the frame. So you can see there's multiple mounting points. There's like 3 screws. So it's really, really on there good. So it's not going to fall off when you're riding. There you go. And the keys do come out. You don't have to leave those in when you're riding, but I don't want to forget about them, so I'm going to pop them back in there. There we go. One of the downsides that I noticed about this setup is that you can't just turn the bike on with this button pad here. You have to actually first turn on the battery pack. You'll notice that it, there we go, lights up with these LEDs to kind of tell you how much capacity is remaining. And that's cool, because if the battery's off the bike, you don't have to plug it in. You can just check it real quick. Now that that's been done, we're going to hold the power button for a couple seconds here. And that's going to turn on the display. It does a quick countdown. And then basically it gives you feedback about your speed, your battery level, your assist level. There are 4 assist levels. And at any time you can use that throttle to get started up to 6 miles per hour. And then to help you as you pedal up to 20 miles per hour. So I think the idea of this bike, and a lot of, electric mountain bikes, is that, you should be pedaling. That the experience is about riding the bike as a traditional bike, and they don't, you don't want to spin out, you don't want to wreck the terrain, and so they really limit the throttle. But if you are pedaling, and say that you approach a hill in the distance and you don't want to switch gears, well, you can help out by twisting that throttle up to 20 miles per hour. Beyond 20, the motor will still help you, and that's kind of the speed pedelec format of this bike. The display itself is not removable, but it does sort of swivel a little bit, which is great to reduce glare. And it's mounted real nicely front and center. It is backlit, and it's got like a little light sensor right here. It's monochrome, and activating it is cool with this button pad, because you don't have to like take your hand off and reach anything. So you can go up or down, pedal assist levels, turn the bike on or off. I'm gonna go ahead and hop on and just use the twist throttle and kind of show you what that's like, what it looks like down there. So you can see it helped me get up to about 6 miles per hour, and then it sort of backed off. Now if I start pedaling, woo, it's gonna kick in again. You can see it kicks in really almost instantaneously, and it doesn't cut out immediately because of that larger chainring on the front. It takes a moment to kind of slow down, but it's much smoother and more responsive than older technology. This thing is listening, and it's responding to get you that energy, and to keep it smooth, and to keep you from, like I said, flying off a trail or something like that. But do remember, you've got the brake levers here. One of the things that I tend to do when I ride a bike like this with a mid-drive is I kind of tap the brakes, or I ease up on my pedaling when I shift gears. And that's so that you don't mash the gears in the rear. As you can imagine, I'm pulling that chain, and so is the bike. And, that's a lot of extra pressure. So easing off on the motor when you switch gears is kind of a good thing. I'm going to try to demonstrate that real quick here. There we go. Yeah, not bad. And the system is really quiet. I'm actually surprised. It's quieter than I thought, especially once you get up to those higher speeds. The sound of the tire and everything kind of blocks out the motor noise. Yeah, that's the Raleigh Tekoa. For the full write-up on this, including the specs and pictures, I'll see you back at the website, ElectricBikeReview.com.